are.
Here we are, our favourite phrase. And we're
Favourite
live!
phrase.
Oh my goodness, if there's anyone here. Hello. I'm so excited.
Yes. We've been talking about this, and then we just never get around to doing it. So we just committed. So we are doing it.
Thursday nights is going to be our date night.
Thursday night could work out quite nicely, yeah. We've somehow managed to farm off one child, but still managed to get... This is a good time for us. I don't know how this time works for other people, but I guess everyone's got their own different routines. But for us, it works.
Yeah, I like Thursday nights. It's going to be a good night for us to go live, I think. And I'm really excited to be here. If there is anyone watching, say hello in the chat, because we'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, let us know your podcast questions, your things that are holding you up, or things that you want to ask us about our podcast journey, things that we do for our episodes and production. Really, we just want to get a feel for where people are stuck, I guess. I think what's stopping people from that next, because we hear a lot from people that, oh yeah, I want to start a podcast and do this, and then weeks or months go by and we go, how did you get on with that podcast? And then they're kind of like, oh, and I get it. I'm not kind of, I totally understand that. But what I want to see is, can we be the bit that unblocks it from being, oh, that's a really cool idea, to actually getting something out there? Because I don't think it's that hard. And I say that really kind of lightly, because I appreciate what's hard to some people is different to others. But for me, it's just not complicated. And kind of what I wanted to focus this discussion on, is that why people should be doing them. The benefits you get. I titled this "Why Podcasts Are So Powerful." Why are podcasts so powerful? They've been hugely powerful in my journey, in your journey. You can speak for yourself in a moment. But so I guess just emphasizing that point, because I think people will gravitate towards things that are important to them or things that are easy. So that's where kind of this might come into that kind of, this is important, but it's not easy, or it's not that important. So yeah, just trying to unstuck. What's something that gets rid of glue? I couldn't think of a word there. Anyway.
No.
Okay, go.
Clearly not used to the live thing. Yeah. But why don't you introduce yourself and tell us about your podcasting journey?
I'm Sunjay. I've been a podcaster now for 5 years, and in that time, I have not only launched my own podcast, I've helped you launch your podcast, I've helped many others launch their podcasts, and now that's what I do for a living. So I've actually turned this into something that now pays my bills, which is phenomenal. And really, my passion has become video podcasts and creating high quality, good quality video podcasts, because I really feel that video podcasts is a medium that is growing, and it's becoming more and more prevalent. And I feel like the video podcast has created yet another barrier to entry when it comes to making a podcast, full stop, because now you've got to do video, and that brings to it with its own set of skills and complexities and problems. And I want to, again, try and distill a lot of the myths around that. So that's kind of where my passions now lie, is in helping people to get to that point of thinking about it, to actually doing something about it, get something out there, and then helping them to hone their skills, and make and refine this product, because it's never going to be straight out of the box what we maybe envisage it's going to be. It's never going to be the polished thing, and you're always, and it's good to be always chasing that. But I think we can get caught up in this world, especially with the modern world of social media, and you're comparing, and you're looking at other podcasts, you're looking at your neighbours, and you're looking at trying to keep up with the Joneses. You can get caught up in a lot of that. But no, it's really just to help people to get something out there and just start to experience the benefits, right? A little bit like when I was a personal trainer, right? My goal wouldn't be in the short space of time is to get someone, for example, to run a marathon. If their goal was to run a marathon, it'd be to get them to experience the benefits of running first and foremost. Because once you start to taste, oh, this is good, this is really useful, then you're naturally going to want to come back and do more, right? So if someone can start to podcasts and put content out there and start to feel, oh, this is pretty good, this feels good, then it's going to make the rest of the journey really easy. So I guess that's what I want to try and achieve. How about you?
Well, I am a pharmacist by background. That's my trade, something I've been doing for 14 years now. But I have become a podcaster by passion. So I started my podcast 4 years ago. It's called Pharmacist Diaries. I interview different pharmacists from all over the globe about their career journeys. So we take you behind the scenes with regards to why they became a pharmacist, what kind of transitions that they make in their career, why they make those transitions, what skills that they've learnt, how those experiences have led to new jobs, as an example. And I started off as audio only and absolutely loved that part of the journey. But then I think just under 2 years ago, I moved to video podcasting, and boy, have I fallen in love with that even more. And then we've moved from virtual video podcasting to face-to-face video podcasting, which has been an absolute dream. So I've got around 162 episodes now. I'm really enjoying the long-form content that I'm creating. And it's an incredible platform for pharmacy students, for training pharmacists, or even really qualified pharmacists to just learn about what other people are doing. And it's an amazing way to showcase my profession. And the idea of my podcast came from teaching pharmacy students at university, because part of my job is university lecturing. And having spoken to hundreds of students, a lot of them share with me that they struggle to identify what career options are available to them, and also which avenues of those options they should go down. So a lot of people who know pharmacy will know that you can work in a community pharmacy, like a shop, a high street shop. You can work in a hospital. A lot of people know that you can work for big pharmaceutical companies as well, doing research, development, maybe clinical trials, developing drugs. So there are already many options, but there are so many things that we don't talk about, from non-conventional roles such as podcasting. I mean, this, entrepreneurship, academia. I mean, I've met sports pharmacists, people who are working as prison pharmacists. We've got people who work in the most incredible places that we don't necessarily discuss in the university curriculum. So identifying that gap in the market, let's call it, or a gap where students struggle to find information online that they're really craving to learn about and know more about. I just had this light bulb moment that actually, what a great idea would it be to have an audio story where students and young people can actually listen to the behind the scenes insights of pharmacists and their journeys, and learn alongside making a new connection or making a friend or understanding more of the career pathways. And my expectations were relatively low as to what it would lead to, but I am beyond just grateful, excited, and just thrilled that the journey has been so much more than I could ever ask for. And when you talk about the benefits of podcasting, for me, there's the personal journey with it, but there's also the professional journey as well. So personally, I have grown significantly when it comes to public speaking, talking on camera, being able to share my thoughts online and through social media, navigating how to support a podcast guest to have an incredible interview and an incredible experience with me, having an amazing conversation about their career journey and showcasing who they are, as well as all the admin, time management, organizing your time, the productivity that comes with doing this as a passion project outside of full-time working and parenting 2 young children. So for me, it's been such an amazing journey. I have also, from a professional perspective, I've kind of expanded what I have to offer. Oh, I love that Todd's on here. Hi, Todd. I've been able to do public speaking events around the globe. I mean, international working has just been something that I'm really incredibly passionate about. And the more I podcast, the more people reach out to me. In fact, I got asked to speak at a conference today, another one, which I haven't told you about. I'm very excited about that. I've talked at universities around the country. I've working with partners in terms of the Pharmacy Podcast Network, who's on the YouTube live right now, is one of our partners for the Pharmacist Diaries podcast, and they're incredible. And they help me to reach a massive audience in the US that I might not have had the opportunity to reach, having worked alone and growing my podcast organically. And multiple other partnerships, including one with The Naked Pharmacy, who I'm an affiliate with, and absolutely love working with that brand, especially because the CEO is also a pharmacist. So those are kind of the main things that have really helped me on my journey, and I've absolutely loved it. But what's most exciting in the last kind of month or so is that we've made the decision to start teaching other people how to podcast, and part of this is doing podcast coaching, so one-on-one coaching, or 2-to-1, we should call it 2-to-1 coaching for clients, and also building a community online of budding podcasters.
Not two for the price of one. You don't get two of us for free.
No, it's not two. It's not for 2 for 1. So what do you call it?
I don't know.
Yeah, we call it personalized coaching with the two of us. But yeah, we're really excited about the journey and what it's led to, and we really want to encourage other people to start their own podcasts. I think from my point of view, most of my network are healthcare professionals, and I've been doing a little bit of research around podcasts, and what I discovered online is that there's probably around 5 million podcasts out there. And if you look at how many of those are actually active, it's around 770,000, which means that they've published an episode in the last 12 months. And the statistics show that only 1.5% of those are healthcare specific. So there is space. There is a lot of space for pharmacists or any other healthcare professionals to start their own podcast. And I'm really excited to see the growth in that area for me.
So putting aside the fact that you're a podcast fan, or it's something you're passionate about, and of course now it's something which you're trying to you're turning into a career in helping with podcasts. Thinking of why podcasts are so powerful as a pharmacist. So Anisha the pharmacist, what has Anisha the pharmacist benefited? In what way as a pharmacist has Anisha benefited from the podcast? So in your pharmacy career. So if someone's listening to this who's a pharmacist and they love their job, they're passionate about pharmacy, and they see their career always being in pharmacy, how is that person going to benefit from having a podcast? So I guess rather than talking in other person's shoes, give us your experience of it as a pharmacist.
I think the major thing for me is being a leader in this space has been an incredible opportunity, because there aren't that many pharmacist podcasters in the UK. In the US, there are plenty of podcasters, and that is just growing exponentially. And Todd Urey from the Pharmacy Podcast Network is one of the main reasons why a lot of these podcasts are actually growing, because he's got an incredible network and he's really showcasing what pharmacists are capable of. But in the UK, there's a limited number of pharmacists who are going into this area, but it's given me a voice. It's given me an opportunity to really showcase our profession on a global scale, which is absolutely incredible. It's led to opportunities that I didn't even know that pharmacists were able to get involved with, from brand partnerships, sponsorships, affiliate links, being an ambassador, public speaking. And my abilities, my skills have grown significantly. If you look at my ability to feel confident in front of a big crowd, I wouldn't have had that before. Being on camera.
I don't know about that. You've never had a problem in a crowded room.
No, but I love how you said I don't have a problem being in a crowded room, guys. But if I have to stand on a stage
fair
in
enough.
front of hundreds of people, I get really nervous and I start sweating and behaving all awkward. And that has changed for me because I have just been constantly practicing an element of public speaking. Now it's different. You're having a conversation with one person, but you know the content's going out to the world. So it has really built my confidence with my ability to showcase who I am, you know, my thoughts, my opinions, and showcasing the pharmacy profession. And I think as an entrepreneur, now the podcast is basically a stepping stone into a million and one other amazing opportunities. This year, I wanted to do a lot more public speaking, and that's become a reality for me, which I love. I've also really wanted to have really solid kind of partnerships with other brands. And the main goal for me as a pharmacist is to try and step away from the traditional 9 to 5 job in a hospital and be able to work relatively remotely from anywhere in the world and be able to spend more time with my family. And instead of trading time for money, everything that I do just has value to it. And there are opportunities to also generate income on an evergreen scale. So something like putting out an online course about podcasting, we could sell that online and generate passive income, which allows us to have the freedom to not work a 9 to 5 job, to be anywhere in the world, to homeschool our children, to travel and spend 4 months in Hawaii or wherever we want to go. And for me, that's the dream. That's the big vision. And if podcasting allows me to do that whilst enjoying the journey, I'm all for it.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think healthcare is such an interesting area when it comes to podcasting because everyone that I've met and the people that I've spoken to in healthcare, they're very, very passionate about what they do. And they really care about helping people and helping others and spreading their message, whether it's a pharmacist who's talking to patients or whether it's a research pharmacist, right, doing research. And some of the people that you've introduced me to, they're really passionate about the research side so they can help. That still distills down, trickles down into helping the general population. And I think if you're at that kind of level, or that kind of level's the wrong word, that level of passion about something, then your goal is to try and get as many ears on your ideas and your philosophies and your work as possible, right? And I just think a podcast is such a, I would say it's, writing a book would be kind of number one, right? That would give you, in terms of giving you authority, right? I think if you write a book, a published book by a proper publishing house, that would be number one. Then there's probably, TV appearances and things like that probably come above that. But podcasting is right up there, right? I would say podcasting is as popular as going on a radio show now, because I certainly don't listen to radio shows that. I listen to sports radio a little bit, but very rarely. So I think, if you're that kind of, if that's your field where you're teaching people, you're educating, you're trying to pass on knowledge, I really think that a podcast is a fantastic way to reach more people, because it doesn't matter, even if one, I used to say this all the time when I worked in healthcare, right? Even if one person listens to you and it makes an impact and makes a difference in their lives, then your job is done, right? And the rest doesn't matter. So, I think it's.
And I think you just have to have confidence in your idea. For pharmacists, we like to stay in our lane. That's the type of people that we are. We're kind of type A personality. We like to do kind of one thing and do it really well, which is where, from a university point of view and from a traditional university point of view, we are taught that you will become a pharmacist, and most likely if you're in a hospital or even in retail, you will specialize and you stay in that lane for quite a long time. But what I want to try and share with people is that you can have multiple lanes on the go. I'm a pediatric pharmacist in one lane, and in palliative care specifically, I love academia and teaching, so I've got my lane for that. I've got podcasting now, there's my lane for that. There's now public speaking added to it. There's social media, digital marketing. There's, I'm learning more about sales. And I mean, there's endless kind of opportunities for growth. I think personally you grow so much. And I love that podcasting is always evolving because you end up changing the way that you work, the way that you produce, the way that you edit, the way that you share content online. And you're constantly learning every single week, every single month, and you're changing the way that you produce content that you share with the world. You're also learning about your audience, which I love. I love getting to know you guys. I absolutely love the connections that I make with people online. And I make such an effort every single week to have at least 2 to 3 new conversations with another professional, mainly through LinkedIn, because that's where I spend most of my time. But I make 30 minutes, I make a call to a new person every single week. And I'm talking minimum 2 to 3 people because I just really enjoy it. And they potentially could turn into podcast guests, or maybe I can support them with something, or they can support me with something. But it's really, really nice to just get to know new people and learn what other people are doing in pharmacy. For me, it's just a really enjoyable experience. It lights me up.
It's a good way to think of it. It's just that it's a modern networking, isn't it? It's really, instead of the old way of maybe going to kind of clubs and associations where you would get together in person. And again, I 100% advocate for in person right now, but in this kind of modern world, having a podcast is a really good reason just to have a chat with someone, right? Because when do people do that, right? When do we look at someone's profile or find someone amazing or hear someone on the podcast and then just approach that person and go, hey, I really loved what you did. Can you just tell me a little bit more about it? We just don't do that. But when you're asking someone on the podcast, that's what you're doing, right? You're asking them for something which is so precious that we can't create any more of it, and that's their time. And they're giving you their time, right? They're giving you their most precious resource. So there is something about a podcast and having that, call it the word authority or influence, whatever it is, but it does get you into conversations that maybe you wouldn't otherwise have. And Todd's made a good point here about healthcare podcasters in having to rise to another level, and he's got an initiative to build a certified evidence-based podcast in 2025. It's kind of what you were saying earlier about pharmacists wanting to stay in their lanes. I feel like there's a fear when you're giving public health information, and I completely understand the fear, right? In that, what if I give out information that could potentially, put someone at risk? And I understand that, and I like this idea of having this kind of evidence-based podcast. I know YouTube Health are doing a lot more around getting channels that are kind of certified, or I don't know how far they've got along with that, but that are giving out, evidence-based principles. There's a lot of people being hired within these organizations for these roles from healthcare institutions just to help them with this process. So that, if that's your fear, then that landscape is changing very, very quickly. But then, then maybe that's not the type of content you want to be creating. Maybe the content you want to be creating is more kind of opinion based rather than giving, advice. There's so much there's so many nuances to it. But I just wanted to touch on that because I think that's definitely a valid point. A lot of people do worry about that.
I think there's a lot of variety in what pharmacists and healthcare professionals can do, because you can, of course, if you love having conversations like me, then it's great to have a type of podcast where you interview other people. But there are also incredible healthcare professionals out there who can do solo episodes, and they can either cater to other healthcare professionals and dive deep into different forms of evidence or clinical trials or research that's being done in a certain, specialist field. Or, a great example is a friend of mine who's an HIV pharmacist, and she could easily create the most incredible podcast for patients to learn more about the disease, the progression of the disease, what, new treatments are coming out, what are the treatments for, how do they take the medications, what are the side effects, all of that. So I really think that there is so much that we can do to the general public, but there's also things that we can do for each other. And for a lot of entrepreneurs who are pharmacists, it's an amazing way to build a brand, whether it's a personal brand like what I've been doing. But if you've got a business where you're selling a service or a product, this is such an incredible way to get people to find you online, to share your voice, your opinion, to share ideas about the service that you're providing or the actual context of what you're doing. Maybe you're coaching people about health and well-being or preventative medicine. And you can dive deep into really amazing topics where someone might listen to that on a walk or in their car journey or on a train or while they're running, and they can learn more about you. And it's a stepping stone to potentially finding a new client if they really like the services that you're providing. And it's that one-on-one attention that you get with podcasting. You really feel like you're actually having a conversation with the individual who's speaking, and that can have such an impact on like the know, like, and trust factor. And I think that's really valuable if you're building a business as well.
Yeah, so trust factor, that was something I was thinking of just now. I think certainly if you're building a business and you have something to monetize, you have a product to sell, a service to sell, then, people are going to trust you more if they've heard and seen you a lot. You've probably had this, and I know a lot of podcasters experiences is people often say to them, I feel like when they meet them in person, they feel like, they say, I feel like I know you so well because I've heard you so for so many hours in my ear. And when you've heard someone that many times up close and personal, it feels like you know them, and then there is an automatic trust almost, right? It's like if the guy from the voice on the telly is suddenly standing in front of you, telling you to do something, you're more likely to do it because it's the guy from the voice on the telly. So that has a profound impact. So if you have a service, a product to sell, I think the trust factor is definitely there. I know, again, this is not, we should have got some data actually on this because there is a lot of data available now on this type of stuff. But just people I know that are, for example, coaches. A lot of coaches who have got podcasts. I know a couple of coaches who get 80% of their revenue now has come as a result of someone appearing on their podcast. So, these people have become clients. So it really just goes to show that there is a lot to be said about having a podcast within your niche. And talking about niche, that's the next thing as well. I think people often worry about, what they're going to talk about or having a topic that's too specific. I think, having a really strong niche is really, really powerful. And I think that the more niche you can be, the better, because it's easier then to find who your people are, right? It's easier then to target what you're creating to that person or that group of people, rather than thinking, especially within healthcare, right? It can be, it's so vague. You can talk about anything, right? In healthcare, you can talk about hair, you can talk about eyes, you can talk about skin, you can talk about feet, you can talk about muscles, you can talk about so many different things. So if you have a specific, speciality, then hone in on that, right? And even if it's something you want to share, it could be content for other healthcare professionals or your peers or your colleagues, if you're, that type of expert level, or it could just be for that type of cohort of patients who have a specific type of condition. They might be the ones that might want to listen. So, for example, I worked in diabetes, and you could phone on that, or even more so. So there's so much you can do.
Talking about kind of the niche, I mean, for me, obviously, pharmacy is a great niche. I think catering to pharmacists, pharmacy students, and those training to become pharmacists, I initially thought that was a wonderful niche. I thought that is perfect. It's not too wide. The content is very specific to the audience that I'm reaching out to, because every single pharmacy student, trainee, or pharmacist will find value from any of my podcast episodes. But now, 4 years into the journey, I'm also discovering that I can niche down even more. And I've discovered that through my metrics, analyzing my data through YouTube, my audio podcasts, by speaking to my audience, by sending them emails. I'm learning more about what my audience likes, and a lot of them really, really like the fact that I don't stay in my lane. I'm a non-traditional, kind of unconventional pharmacist who's doing lots of other exciting things. That really lights people up. The idea of entrepreneurship and having a side hustle alongside a traditional career is really exciting people. So the people who really want to look at pharmacy from that unconventional approach, whether it's entrepreneurship, being a thought leader, looking at content creation, developing a business online, those are the people who really, really hone in on my content. So now I'm trying to focus and target a lot more episodes and a lot more content online, whether that's through LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram, to actually demonstrate that, follow me if you want to dream big, if you want to get out of your lane, if you want to think outside the box, if you want to be unconventional, then I'm definitely the pharmacist to kind of showcase that journey.
Yeah, and just as Todd was saying here about, just want to sort of come back to the chat about whether you should even start, right? It's like, should you podcast? Maybe not. And he's got a very good point here. If you do start, then don't stop. There's the 7-episode itch, like the 7-year itch. There's a 7-episode itch where a lot of, I can't remember the exact numbers, but a lot of podcasts stop after 7 episodes because there's overwhelm. So yeah, consistency is just
it's king.
I feel bad I keep saying it so much, but it's so true in everything we do, that if you cannot be consistent in anything, going to the gym, keeping up with your water habit, keeping up with your medication, with your supplements, whatever it might be, if you can't be consistent, then what's the point? Be consistent and find a cadence that works for you, right? I think maybe we overcommit at the beginning, and I think people, there's always things like, I've got to do 1 episode a week, or I've got to do 2 episodes a month, or whatever it might be. I think just find a cadence that works for you. And I think if once a month is once a month for 12 months compared to once a week for 4 weeks, then a gap for 3 months, then a couple of episodes, right? You're better off doing once a month for 12 months and just getting 12 episodes under your belt and then being done, rather than being that consistent. So yeah, what I'm saying is find the cadence that works for you. And then, and don't stop. And then as you said, niche is key. Just pick something that no one else talks about, or in a different way that you've not heard it before. Yeah, I like that. Thanks for that.
I definitely overcommitted. And when you're working full time and you do this on the side, when you're doing video podcasting as well, I mean, I spend around 10 to 15 hours a week doing everything from guest outreach, social media, connecting with people that could be potential guests, starting to email them, having a video, virtual call with them, planning the actual podcast episode, getting a recording date, doing all the editing, creating the clips, creating social media content around the episode, show notes, email newsletters, all of that, plus publishing the episode every single week takes around 10 to 15 hours of my own time. And when you're working full time, you've got children like we do, obviously your time is quite limited. So I think for us, doing once a week was quite a challenge, and I'm actually really proud that I've made it 4 years, having continued with my journey. I have not kept up with the once a week episodes because it's been really, really hard to keep up with it, and I've made myself feel really bad when I've not managed to achieve the once a week, and I put a lot of pressure on myself. And if I was to go back in time, I would say actually every other week, like 2 episodes a month, would have been way more achievable. But what I did see from 2023 to 2024 was that I was able to do weekly episodes, and I was able to commit to that cadence, and I saw massive growth in the podcast because of the consistency. So I think this is really important, like you said, to bring up, because consistency is key. It literally will be the driver to your success in terms of a strategy in the early days, but just understand how much time that you have before you commit to too much.
Yeah, Yeah, I think we will definitely be we'll be talking a lot more about that as we do more of these live streams, and it's a topic that comes up a lot. So I think that's one thing. I do want to kind of move the conversation on a little bit in terms of talking about the actual doing it and the production itself, and some of the stumbling blocks that we see there. And of course, the biggest one is the tech, right? Is the
It's the overcomplication of tech, I think. People
Right.
get very excited about needing a fancy camera or buying expensive microphones, and they just go into this sort of hamster wheel of trying to look up more and more information, or seeing what other podcasters are using through social media, or following their favorite YouTubers and expecting to get the same, $1,000 microphone that they have because you think it's the best thing to get. But I think you need to just take a step back and simplify, because there's a lot of ways to keep the tech really simple and not overwhelm yourself. Because once you have expensive gear, you got to know how to use it. Like, I don't know how to use half of the things that you have. So thank goodness that I have you in my life. But if I had to just do this entire process on my own, there's no way I would be using all of the gear that we have.
Okay, so that's a good way to start then. So how would you? So if you were now to suddenly tomorrow, you had to do every single piece of your podcast production, recording, edit. That let's talk about the recording first, because that's the bit we're all talking about now. The capturing. What would you do, and what would you use?
Okay, so two things. If I was to lose you from my life tomorrow, I still have.
Hold on, you haven't lost me from your life yet. I just said I'm not doing your podcast anymore. You just kicked me out of your life. Jeez.
If I've lost you from my podcast life, then I still have a lot of knowledge right now that I have learnt from you. So I would definitely... Sunjay is the secret weapon.
He knows.
Yeah. I would definitely use my iPhone as a camera. I would definitely still use a good microphone. I would most likely record, if it was audio only, I would record into Audacity, because I know how to use it and I know that it gives great sound quality. I can edit in there as well. And I would use Auphonic to improve my sound in the kind of production phase. But if I was to use video, I would record everything onto my phone. I think I would actually look up the Rode app to see if I could record into Rode, because you've talked about using that on a phone with another guest as well, and we're going to look into those features. But I also think that Descript has been a really useful app for us. But I'm also very aware that Riverside is another app that is really useful for video podcasting, because both Descript and Riverside allow you to create AI-driven clips, as an example. So that's really useful. They can support you to create show notes using AI and the transcript from the podcast episode. And Descript you can actually publish directly to YouTube, as an example. So there are lots of different benefits. So there's lots of things that I've learned that I would be able to utilize as tools. But if I had no knowledge right now, then I would most likely choose an app similar to Riverside or Spotify for podcasters and record directly into the app itself and edit within the app, publish within the app. So it's just one platform, keep it simple. That's what I would do. What do you think?
Yeah, I think you have to start with what you know. So if you're thinking of starting a podcast and you get to the point where it's time to think about the tech, and that overwhelms you, or that fills you with kind of dread, or that fills you with maybe even excitement, but then that takes you away from getting it done, right?
For some people, yeah.
Yeah, because it can do, and it can be exciting, but it's also a distraction. Then, yeah, absolutely. First of all, I think if you're listening or watching to this, you probably have enough you're of a level of wealth where you have a modern mobile phone, right? And I think if you have a modern mobile phone, like you said, then you have all of the tools you currently need to start a podcast, right? And if it just means if you've got a fantastic idea and you've gone through that process and you've come up with content, you know your cadence, you know your schedule, just pick up your phone, open up the voice memos app on it, and just record an audio only podcast. Job done. Right. And then yes, as you quite rightly said, if you want to level up onto video, use your phone's camera if you can, and then you've got a high quality video camera there as well. Some of the tools you mentioned there, just to be clear, wouldn't only work if you're recording in person. So Audacity, for example, you'd only record in Audacity if you're doing a solo podcast.
Yeah.
Right. So if you wanted to invite a guest and we're talking remotely, then you would need a service like Riverside or Descript. I'm kind of favouring for that. If I was going to pick the one app, because this is the other problem now, right? When it comes to apps, when I first started, there was only like two. There was Squadcast and Zencast.
They only had limited features,
and the features were limited. And Zoom was kind of like the king of like video calling apps, but their quality. And please, I don't use Zoom. I know a lot of people. You'll find lots of videos, and I know I'm saying here, use what you know, but just don't use Zoom. The quality's it's too poor. If you're sitting here thinking about investing in a microphone, and then you go and use Zoom, you just don't. So in terms of the one software, I'm now kind of leaning towards Descript as kind of the one-stop shop, because Descript now have got it's a place where you can go and record your episode. So whether that's you're doing a solo episode, or whether you have guests, you can do it all from within Descript. So you can schedule your guests and send them an easy link. It's just a one-click thing. You can record the episode within Descript without leaving the platform. You can edit the entire episode in Descript. So all of it will just pull all the files. So you don't have to then take your files, download the files from Riverside, then save them somewhere because you need space to save these large video files, and then take them to somewhere else and upload them. No, you just do it all straight from within Descript. You edit the episode, and then you can edit the episode into clips. And this is where the power of Descript comes when it comes to the chopping or episode up and repurposing it. And we'll talk a lot more about this in future episodes. But one of the things we do, which you would have seen, and this is something you've started to do, or the part of the process you've taken over for quite a while now, actually, is cutting that episode up into clips. And the beauty of Descript is they've got loads of AI features built in that make that process easy, but you can also apply some of your own kind of human touch as well. What's been your experience from a non-video editing technical person of using Descript as a video editing tool to create kind of short form video?
It's so easy. I mean, I could get my 7-year-old to do it. I could easily train her to do it. And I love that because I obviously started with Audacity, which you have to edit. It's editing audio only, but you have to actually look at the waveforms and like figure out what the ums and ahs are to try and remove them. And it's quite time consuming, and you don't have AI built into Audacity, or you didn't when I had it. But I love that you can edit using the text. You can actually highlight elements of your conversation using the transcript. Say it's a 1-minute clip, you just literally scroll that paragraph and create a new clip, and you can turn it into horizontal, vertical, add music, add captions. You can do all sorts of fun stuff with it if you wanted to. I keep mine really simple. You can put stock kind of video footage on it or images. I really like the classic look of my clips, so I keep it really simple, and it also makes it much easier and time efficient for me because the video quality is so awesome from Sunjay that I don't have to add lots of extra stock footage or video onto it. But it's also quite time consuming, so for me it just is easy to just add some music and also add the captions, and it's a job done, and I save them and I use them for social media. And I love the beauty of podcasting from the point of view that you can repurpose the content into so many different things. So when I have a transcript for an episode, I can then use AI to create a blog post or show notes or social media posts or an email newsletter with the kind of click of my fingers. It's a really short input into ChatGPT or a website I use called Claude, and it helps me to produce the foundation of the show notes or the newsletters, etc., that I write, and then I alter them into my style or kind of add more information that makes it a little bit more personal and sounds like me rather than AI. And I love it. Yeah, I really like Descript. I'm really happy with it. I think it's really easy to use, and it's easy to teach people to use it too.
Yeah, absolutely. Todd says, minimum mic level quality Yeti Blue. What's the minimum quality mic? So yeah, if once you start to think about buying microphones, then there's a whole kind of separate live stream. But I think again, use what you've got. Your phone is surprisingly a very competent device, and that might be all you need to do, right? I know a lot of people who will record their entire episodes, on their phone. They will edit it on the phone. They'll upload it on their phone. Everything you can do the whole thing entirely on your phone now if you wanted to. That's how advanced the software has become. But yeah, we've got all of this stuff. If people are really interested in digging into this before we kind of talk about one of these live streams, we've got our entire Amazon shop front here, which you can go and visit here. So I've just kept it really simple. So starter kit. So this is what, if talking about what is the minimum level of equipment, we're talking about £86. So I always say, once you break $100, up to $100 or £100, once you're thinking about spending money on a microphone. And the reason I picked this particular one is because this has got two different ports. Okay, you've got a USB connection, which we all know connects into your computer, but then you also have a more professional level XLR. So if you did want to then level up or use this in a different setup, then you're not left with a piece of equipment. Then you have to then upgrade, and you're not adding to kind of the electronic graveyard out there of unwanted discarded equipment. So this, again, I don't need to go. I'm not going to go into it, but if you want to get super basic, I've got a setup there for you, and then I've also got the tech that we use. So you've kind of got a more detailed description. And I said, I'm going to do a walkthrough of all of these. So if this is something you want to see, it's something you're interested in, then I can talk about it until the cows come home. So just give me the nod, and we'll do a separate live stream on it. But I want to just say, you don't need, there's a lot of equipment here that we obviously use, and obviously this is something I do for a living now. You don't need all of that equipment, right? As Anisha said, I think using your phone, if you just had a subscription to Descript and your phone, you're golden, right? You're golden. You've got pretty much everything you need. So keep the production super simple, and just get it done, get it recorded.
Yeah.
Get it out there.
So if you're out there and you're thinking about starting a podcast, maybe you've just got like this little idea that you think, can I do it? Can I not do it? Reach out to us. Reach out to me. I'm absolutely happy to spend some time with you over a virtual call. Maybe we can discuss your idea and see the potential for it. We can look at how much time you have and what you can do with that time, and I guess what you can start with to keep that consistent schedule. But we're always happy to make the time for individuals who are keen to start their journey. So please reach out to us either on YouTube or go to my website, and there's a contact form on there with my email address. You can find me on LinkedIn most of the time. That is genuinely where I spend a lot of my time. So send me a DM or a comment on a post. I would be happy to spend some time with you.
Yeah, so we've got our link tree. I'm showing it on screen now, but I'll pop this in the description. It's in the link to all of our YouTube videos. You'll find it in our Instagram page. So you'll find our links to our LinkedIn profile. You'll find our Instagram profile. You'll find our Behind the Mic community. So if you haven't joined our free podcasters community, we've got the links in there, and we've got links to some of the tools that Anisha was talking about earlier. So Auphonic, Descript, and also our Amazon storefront. All of these are affiliate links. If you click on them and you make any purchases, then it doesn't cost you anything more, but it helps the channel out, and we get a few pennies to keep the lights on. and making these videos. So thank you very much if you do. And then you've got links to the podcast and things like that. So yeah, please do check us out, and just drop us a line with any other questions that you have for us when it comes to podcasting. And we'll be back next week where we're going to talk about, I don't know, what's the next step we're going to talk about? We'll figure that out. The next step in the journey.
The next step is really to break down the steps of the podcast, like to get an episode published. So there are sort of 5 steps that you would need to take, and what we'll do is we'll break
kind
those
of planning,
down.
the planning phase.
Yeah.
Awesome. We'll talk about that next time. Thanks.
In today's fast-paced world, stress can impact every aspect of our lives: our mood, our sleep, and our ability to cope. When stress builds up, it can leave us feeling exhausted and overwhelmed. Let me tell you about a product I found called marine magnesium from the Naked Pharmacy. Derived from pure seawater, marine magnesium offers a natural solution to support nerve and muscle function. It helps stabilize your mood, reduces your stress, and promotes better sleep, so you can face each day feeling refreshed. You can order it now with code PD20 for 20% off, helping you find balance in a hectic world.